Well, that dreaded phone call that someone you love has been seriously injured is one no parent or farm owner wants. For mother and farm owner, as well as Vice President for Federated Farmers, Karen Williams, wrote in a recent Farmers Weekly pulpit about her son's on-farm incident where a seatbelt on a side-by-side could have prevented long-lasting concussion and life-threatening injuries. She believes on-farm safety is a choice, and too many of us continue to push ourselves through fatigue and beyond capability with a fatalistic attitude to on-farm accidents, making her a huge advocate for making sure each farmer gets home safely to their families. And she joins us now. Karen, thank you so much for your insights in the recent Farmers Weekly pulpit. And I wasn't obviously aware of this tragedy. Do you find that the more you talk about your personal situation, your involvement now with Safer Farms, the more people have a lot of personal stories? Everybody knows someone who's been in an on-farm accident of some sort.
Hi, Sarah. Yeah, thanks for having me. And this is something I'm very passionate about. And obviously it's 2 years down the track since Tom's accident now. So it's not, we've moved on somewhat, but it's still very real and vivid in some sense. And that is playing out around the country with frequency, we don't want to see. And I think even before Tom's accident, I was sending sympathy cards off to people I didn't know because I wanted to help in some way, but I thought there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way of reducing these stats and changing our culture around safety.
When you talk about stats, WorkSafe have said almost half of vehicle-related deaths could be avoided if seatbelts were used. Would you mind talking us through, as hard as it may be, about that particular day and what happened to Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the interesting part is that this happened on a flatland farm. So we're an arable cropping farm. It was in a side-by-side vehicle as a passenger. They weren't going fast. But what happened is he'd opened the gate, hadn't put his seatbelt back on, and the bulls had been playing and digging around overnight. Had dug a hole. And it was December. It was quite a growthy period. So the grass was actually still quite high, and it completely disguised the hole. So they just plummeted straight into the hole, smacked really hard. The front wheels were sort of bent inwards, and his face and throat bore the impact on the dashboard. So the throat injury was the life-threatening one because the front of his windpipe had pushed back on the rear, and so he had bruising on the front side and it had ruptured 8 centimetres long rupture on the back, which could easily have compromised his breathing. It was very close and so close to his spine as well. So that was the immediate risk and what the hospital dealt with. But the ongoing head injury was many months and very, very challenging for a teenage boy and his mum.
Yeah, I can imagine. So therefore, when we're talking about seatbelts, particularly on side-by-sides, there is a bit of a sort of general sentiment, so to speak, that, you can't jump out quickly if you're wearing a seatbelt. What would you say to that?
Yeah, look, the stats show it's safer to be harnessed in there. And I know you've got Dan Hansen on as a guest tonight, and that's fabulous because Dan has a great story on a hill country property where him being clicked in made all the difference for his life. So yeah, these machines are designed and manufactured in a way that harnessing you in protects you. And that's, it doesn't take long to click in. It really doesn't. I know it's a bit annoying, but we need to break that down.
You make a very valid point in the pulpit article. For those who are listening, I'll put that in the descriptions below to have a good read. But when you talk to farmers and say, okay, well, how much hassle really is it? They reply it's about 10 seconds per gate. How do we even begin to have that conversation and normalise the fact that click in, click out each gate to make it, it's not about convenience.
No, it's not. It's a culture change. And I grew up where we didn't wear seatbelts in the back of the car, but now it's pretty standard. You get in and you click regardless of where you're sitting in your road vehicle. So we need to make that same sort of learned behaviour. And I think we need to dig a bit deeper about what it is in the New Zealand psyche, or in fact international, that prevents us doing that. Is there a sort of a macho, or I'm not looking that cool if I go and protect myself a bit? So we need to unpick that a little bit, and certainly explore how we could turn that around. And a culture of safety is actually okay, and it's not something to be embarrassed or ashamed about, because a lot of people love you and want you coming home.
Absolutely. I mean, as you put here, it's these open-ended questions that you're having day to day with yourself, just as much as your team as well, around, what tasks am I going to do today that I feel unsafe about? I mean, we are so unconscious in our day-to-day operations that it is actually quite scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And prompting those discussions is a good formal way of doing it. There's probably more informal ways we can do it, just, while you're down at the sheds, or you've met in the yards, just cover those things off. But I think there's low-hanging fruit, and I believe the seatbelt one is that, through to a range of a complete culture change, and we have some demographics, and sadly, it's in that sort of late 50s, 65 plus range, where we have a significant number of on-farm fatalities, particularly from vehicle accidents. And so, it'd be great to pull together some people out of that demographic and work with them, understand what's the pushback about. What is it? Is it a fear that there'll be regulation that you won't be allowed to go on the farm? And that is not what we want. We want our farmers to enjoy their farms as much as they always have, but just with a built-in safety feature there, and the built-in safety feature is what I'm meaning mentally. I mean, we have Chris Biddles, who probably fits perfect into that demographic, a farmer in Northland, who had his own incident. And he just talked so much about fatigue and putting our well-being first so we don't get ourselves into these situations. Farming these days is 2 full-time jobs put together, really. How do you believe that we can actually start to avoid fatigue full stop? Yeah, we need to be talking about it, and we need to stop wearing it as a badge of honour, being busy and going, oh, that's okay, that's all right, that makes us important. So we need to bust that myth open. We need to have really engaged conversations about wellness. What keeps you ticking? For me, it's generally exercise, and I must say the last fortnights I've been a bit slack, but going for a run or walking on the farm, getting to Pilates, just bringing in that mental well-being that enables us to just slow down and think things through a bit more carefully and make better judgments. And look, fatigue and tiredness and pressure and all the external pressures that are coming across us all mount up, and they build up to be something enormous. So taking time out is critical.
Safer Farms have had an incredible campaign called Plant a Seed for Safety, targeting the wife or the girlfriend or the partner or the female influence within those farming situations to plant that little seed. How do you suggest, as a mother and a farmer's wife, a farmer yourself, to be able to not be a nag and actually do it in a way that actually resonates with our male counterparts?
But that is really challenging, Sarah, and I know when I'm at my 2 teenage boys, they roll their eyes at me and I feel like the nag. So that's why I guess earlier I mentioned the culture change, so that we stop thinking it's in some way cool or there's some sort of bravado around living riskily, if you like. Plant a Seed, that's an amazing initiative. And, attending a funeral earlier this year, which was an on-farm accident, and hearing a very stoic and resilient wife stand up there and say, I always worried about you not coming home, and you haven't this time. And I think so many of us, we worry about that, and a lot of us are active farmers. Some of us are more involved in the business side of things and aren't so much actively on the farm. Either way, you're a critical farming partner, and that worry and fear doesn't go away. I guess the other aspect for Safer Farms, We're looking to develop a new agri plan, and that is a health and safety and wellbeing strategy. And that's our focus for this year, with some financial support from WorkSafe. And we will be looking to, really, what do we want to achieve and how are we going to do it? And then we'll be going out to industry and farmers, and certainly calling upon all. We want to engage with our community. We want to really turn this around, and we'll be asking people for their ideas. No one person has, all of the ideas and all the solutions to this. So we'll be actively looking for that. And I know farmers probably feeling overwhelmed with engagement on fresh water and emissions reductions and biodiversity, but this one I'm passionate about, and I would love to be supported in what we can do.
Karen, thank you so much. What a moving start to the Opinion Maker show. You certainly moved me there. And, I have family members that love to wear the fact that they're busy as a badge of honour, and personally worry so much about them. Sorry. So I resonate so much with that. And I'm sure that this is not where the buck stops. This is a continual, as you said, cultural change. And I'm really looking forward to unpacking that over the next hour. Thank you so much, Karen Williams there. Vice President for Federated Farmers and Wairarapa farmer herself, talking there around her own on-farm accident experience with her son and what was, a long-lasting injuries from a side-by-side and not wearing a seatbelt.